man. Thank you for tuning into our episode for today, man. We're talking a lot about college, high school students receiving their first official offers today. Really excited, man. Football season here is upon us. It starts officially this week. I think there's a scrimmage. I saw Pebblebrook and McEachern actually squares off this Thursday, I believe. Very excited, man. But how you feeling today, Craig?
I'm feeling good. We are in Walton Raiders territory right now. It's gonna be a good day.
Yes, we are. So we had to do a different location, man. So have a little bit of problems with the Wi-Fi. So we went on the road today and did it at Foods Market. So we'll go ahead and get into it, man. But first and foremost, we're gonna talk about the hot news. Right over the weekend, Jontae Gilbert officially decommits from Ohio State, and I heard his top four out of the seven, excuse me, is Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, and Georgia Tech. So what do you think about that news?
I think it says a lot. So, one, he did it the same day he took an official visit to Georgia Tech. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting. Um, but what we've seen with the NIL and stuff, each state kind of has different rules, different variations of it. Georgia Tech, I mean, I saw Coach Key was tweeting some video out with former alum. We know how big the upcoming Hall of Fame is with all the Georgia Tech guys getting in. It looks like Georgia Tech's really bought in at this specific moment. You know how huge this 2024, 2025 recruiting class is. So he might have gotten a really good pitch from Tech to where he's saying, wait a second, I'm gonna reevaluate this. Ohio State's a great place. Let me explore my options more. As for South Carolina, we've talked about them. Another program like Tech that you
Yep.
look at what they've been doing with this year's recruiting class and the 2025, significant leaps that the Gamecocks are taking. I think they just landed some huge five-star linebacker. Obviously, he'll be a 2025 guy, but I think he has time. So I think that's a really good top four for him.
And then I know obviously we talk college. This isn't the college segment, but what do you think about the flips recently for Auburn? Like they got Perry Thompson had a really good recruiting weekend at the barbecue. At the end up, I don't know if you saw, they ended up throwing their head coach into the pool as well. I mean, he was just on fire, and they ended up flipping DeMarcus Riddick, who was committed to Georgia, to Auburn as well. So what do you think about Auburn so far?
I think it's really interesting. And with this whole year-round nonstop recruiting thing, you're going to have some schools that want to build their class early, and you're going to see the flipper schools, the ones that are going to poach top players
Yep.
and entice them. And I think Auburn's going to take that role, and I think it's exciting.
100%.
Yeah.
So we got some Walton Raiders we wanted to bring up today. Major for the secondary, Tyson McCreary just committed to Air Force, and then Jordan Van Bride just committed to the Navy. They're going to be huge components to Walton's secondary and defense this upcoming season. So what do you think of those offers going to some really good programs in college, and what do you think they could bring to that secondary this year?
Oh, the Walton secondary is going to be so important for them. Uh, I played at Walton. I think it's no secret that one of the things we've never really been known for is just having that top seven, eight, top secondary that can match up with secondaries you'd see at a Norcross or Grayson. We have some transfers coming in this year, and I say we because obviously I went to Walton, but I think it's a huge boost for them. It's great that they're already committed. You look at this Walton senior class; it really is something special. They're going all over the place, as we'll see today. But just looking at some of the highlights from BAM, all the success they've had this summer with the 7-on-7s. I don't think any team in Georgia has won more tournaments than they have. Um, that's just in the coverage. You look at what Bam can bring as a physical tackling presence, a lockdown guy once the pads come on. I'm really excited about that secondary. I think it's something that they haven't had to this level in past seasons. That's really exciting for that Walton defense.
Yeah, I got to talk to Coach Bruner at Georgia High School Media Day, an inaugural one, and he talked about the secondary and how excited he is for that position. Because I've talked to him about all kind of positions: his running back, his quarterback, his receivers, his weapons. But as you said, I think that's going to be really interesting, especially with the possibility of Wyatt Sonderman actually potentially playing a little bit of both sides. I think that's going to be good for his recruiting profile because then he'll get recruited as only not only a wide receiver but kind of as an athlete too. And if he has a good season, then that secondary is creating turnovers and making big plays. I think they'd be next level, and that's just going to help the brand even more because then it's like Wall is not really known for defense, but you're shutting people down. You got Ashton Woods going to UNC. You got Wendell Gregory who's going to South Carolina, and you stopping teams and you forcing turnovers and holding them under 20+ points. I mean, that's a pretty good start.
100%. You mentioned the disruptors. Ashton Woods, he plays linebacker, but let's be honest, he can pretty much take on a role as like a defensive tackle and just blow up that offensive line. You pointed out the vulnerabilities last year in the secondary when we saw in the North Paulding game, Aiden Jackson went down and they got completely exposed. You bring in more depth this year. I think we're going to see even like interesting defensive packages where they're going to have, obviously, they got their great linebacking core, but they're going to be able to bring in more guys in the secondary, really make it difficult to pass. If you want to beat teams like Carrollton, you want to beat teams like Colquitt, you're going to have to stop the pass. So,
2 for 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting aspect, and I think Walton's defense has a lot to prove this season.
And what's more better than seeing them on TV, first game of the season against Grayson, being able to see can they shut down? Because I think that's a good test because they got so many playmakers. Obviously, Grayson's known for running the football and getting into Dylan Elder and things like that. But he also got playmakers on the outside, right? Zion Miller, John Senius, Colin Fox. They got some guys. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the defense is gonna look week 1, and they're gonna get a real good test because year in year out, Grayson's competitive and they're pretty good every year.
You're 100% right. We know Grayson's defense is going to be lights out, but yeah, Walton could end up winning that game with their defense. They get some good scores going offensively. Points will be tough to come by against Grayson, but they get some stops, produce a couple turnovers, and yeah, that's a really key aspect to that game that I don't think many people are thinking about. But Walton's defense against the Grayson offense, they aren't going to make it easy for them either.
Right, and I think real quick, and we'll leave it on Walton here. It was so interesting seeing them up close and personal last year in week 1, right? That was such an electric game. I feel like there was like 2 or 3 standout games. I feel like it was early on North Atlanta versus North Forsyth, and I feel like after it was Walton and Mill Creek. I'll never forget that walk-off touchdown they had by Hayden Clark hitting, their receiver. I mean, that game just went back and forth, and it was just, even the coach was like, even the head coach for Coach Josh Lovelady was like, yeah, man, we were just hoping we could stop them. You know what I'm saying? And that's how good you knew that offense was. So they're an exciting team. It's gonna be great this year.
Yeah, I mean, we see it in like NFL playoff games where it's like the only reason you lost is you left the other team with enough time, and really neither team made mistakes. We saw them absolutely execute at a high level, and that's something that happens or tends to happen on those Saturday matchups. It starts early, but it's like they know it's the first game of the season, but you get a good game 1, and then that next team's warming up. They see a potential upset, or they see this team lose. Then they go out there and they starts to feel a little more real. And then once you get to that primetime slot, it's like the energy in the building's just already there where, I mean, it just starts off with a bang. So that Walton Grayson game, you can't just talk about how important that's going to be in setting the tone for the entire season. Walton, they've been highly ranked before, but I think them being that highly ranked with this many really solid 7A teams, that's quite a feat for sure.
100%. So y'all keep it locked. Craig's gonna have his rankings coming out, I think, the first couple weeks of the season, the preseason rankings next week. So that's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see how he ranks 7A, and I'm gonna be giving him grief all season long about his rankings a little bit. I'm sure he's gonna get a little bit of my input too, but it'll be a lot of fun. But Craig, real quick, let's talk about some scrimmage games that you're excited to see. Let's start first with the one we talked about on the onslaught. Pebblebrook and McEachin, right? You got to talk to Dwight Phillips. I talked to the McEachin program. And for me, and I'll throw it to you, I think what's really interesting is going to be their offensive line, right? Parker McClendon looks good for his size, athletic, agile. And I feel like they're going to be able to run the ball like they did last year. And I think the issue is going to be the quarterback, RJ Equals. How will he look in another year under a new head coach? And how will he be able to get the ball to their playmakers? Because they got a bunch of them. But can he get the ball to them? Can he get them out of space? So it's year 1 under Kareem Reed. I think it's interesting to see how they look in year 1. But what did you take away from just talking to Pebblebrook and talking to Dwight Phillips?
It's such an interesting matchup because it's new head coaches for both schools. They're both going to be in Cobb County, really solid regions. But with Pebblebrook, talking to Dwight Phillips, and he had such a big junior season just with the track and field. At one point, he had the fastest 100-meter time in the entire country. He ended up losing in the state meet. Forgot who beat him, but really just like an incredible time that once again set the national record. But talking to him, he said he wants to put up 20 touchdowns and 2,000 yards this season receiving. And I didn't even know. I mean, you could talk to every receiver in the state. No one's setting the bar that high. So,
no,
I think that's it's going to be really interesting. They really seem to like Coach Woolridge, what he's brought to the table. They've got the new facilities. Elbert has had some really good teams. I don't think people understand that. They've also had some big upsets in recent seasons. They've had big wins over Marietta when they were loaded. So they've been really competitive. Um, I definitely expect them to be a playoff team, but this is a big test for both of these programs just to have a good dress rehearsal before the season starts because they're going to be playing some big matchups. They have high goals, and just with the new coaching staff, that's always a key to just try to get things going smoothly.
No, 100%. I think it's going to be interesting matchups to see how they both, go up against each other. And I think, that's going to be one to watch out for. And it kind of marks the start of football for us. Obviously, it started today, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, too. But I think it's real cool to see football being in place now. And we got some big other scrimmages we're going to talk about real quick, too. But so what do you think of seeing all the players officially showing their official offers, right? You had Sammy Brown, 5-star player. There's a couple I've seen Colin Fox. But there's no day for it. But what I saw is that a bunch of players were just kept saying August 1st, August 1st, August 1st. So I guess that's the day that they received the official offers from the programs they committed to. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But I know you saw on internet it said the dead period. So what's your take on
it?
it?
Right. I think we saw how busy July was. It was insane. Shout out to Georgia. They had a really good month of July. But
Sure.
It's like you have all these official visits. I think this is heading into the dead period because obviously they want these kids to focus on their teams. The recruiting's over for the next month. No contact. So I think this is kind of talking to the program, seeing where you guys stand, and then them verbally saying, I'm committed at the end of this period. Maybe we'll catch up in the next month or 2 months, or maybe a visit during the season. But other than that, this is where it stands. It's time to focus on the season.
100%. So let's talk about a couple more. I'm going to throw it to you, Craig, and I'm going to conclude with my favorite matches I can't wait to see for scrimmages. But what are some other ones you're excited to see?
Well, this week, Coffee Fitzgerald. That's a good connection with Coach Pruitt. Father-son matchup right there. Clark Central and North Oconee. North Oconee had such a incredible season last year. Clark Central was a little inconsistent, but that'll be a good Athens-based one. We got Kell and Walton. Walton needs to have a better outing than they did against Roswell. Norcross at Parkview will be interesting, and then gotta say Bowden at Hurt County. Hurt County dealing with that tragedy last week, losing Antoine Carter. I think hosting that scrimmage, just them getting back out on the football field would be huge. And then this following week, there's just some really big one. I think a huge one's going to be Meadow Creek and Alpharetta.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what? I didn't even hear about that one. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think that'd be a good test for Meadow Creek. Obviously,
2 big teams up front in the trenches too.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, and obviously the coach Kyle Wofford gave me a little bit of grief, but love it. Yeah, that's gonna be a good test for Meadow Creek early and often. I think just to kind of see how they match up. Something I'm interested in is Archer Peachtree Ridge. That one probably won't get a lot of notice, but as I said, I'm gonna take Peachtree Ridge in that region. I think Meadow Creek follows them right under, and then North Gwinnett. But I'm curious to see how does Archer look in year 2 under Jontae Williams, right? They said a lot of good things at our high school media day, things that they're trying to do. They talked about him building the culture and things like that. They got some good weapons. They're going to return William Wallace, who's kind of their, skill player, senior. Just how will they look against Peachtree Ridge? I think a team that has a good play, has a lot of good players, right? AJ Perry, Darnell Kelly, Darius Johnson. They got a bunch of players. So I'm curious to see how they're going to look in that matchup. Then some other ones for me, obviously, as you mentioned, Bowden and Hurt County after that tragedy that happened. How will Hurt County respond as a football team, right? How will they set the tone going into the season? Is that going to be something that lingers on, or is that going to be something that they use to overcome? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. And Bowden's obviously, I think they won it all last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Class A Division 2.
Class A Division 2. So that's going to be a good test for them. And then another big one, Gainesville and Milton. Yo, that's going to be such a marquee matchup between those two. I'm excited for that one. Talk to Coach Reeves. I'm going to see if I can go out there and, just be able to just go look and see some of the action, right? I think Gainesville, as I talked to Coach Niblett, they got a really good young class at 2027 that's really explosive and really, really good. So I just want to see how they're going to look against a really good Milton team that, obviously they're ranked on the High School Football America Top 100, but they're not getting as much say as I talk to people around the state of Georgia, right? All I hear synonymously is either Colquitt Buford or Carrollton. I don't hear a lot of Milton, but I think Milton's that team. How will Luke Nickel look in year 2 in that offense? Coach Ben Reeves is constantly alluded to that he's the reason why they made the semifinals last year, and they're talented, right? A lot of people that don't get a lot of notice, like Mark Esley's really good. T.J. Lester, how will he look? He just received the offer from Eastern Kentucky. Got Shamar Vick, the cousin of Michael Vick. How will he look in that offense too? They're gonna run a 2-back system. Right. They got a lot of young guys, right? DJ Rump, who's coming over 2027 class, will he be in the rotation? Christian Pancake Hunter, 2027 class, will he be in the rotation? All those questions are going to be answered, and we're going to see early on. And I didn't mention C.J. Wiley. I didn't mention Ryan Gia. I didn't mention their stud secondary, Shamar Arnott, Dylan Lewis. They got some boys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I didn't mention their linebackers, Jack Lawson, we talked to last year. I think, he switched over from safety to linebacker. Ja'Cory Stewart is going to Kansas. Like, they got some dudes. Yeah. So how would that look on the field?
Right. I think you brought up incredible points. The ones that I'd be most excited about, you mentioned some of their 2027 guys. They're going to get to play in this game for sure. How are they going to? I mean, they have the physicality. You're talking about some of the highest rated upcoming freshmen in the entire country. So seeing them get their first action, that will be exciting. And then exactly what you said. Both of these teams this year, their running game is going to look drastically different than did last year with Gavin Hall over at Gainesville, and then just the stable of backs at Milton where they had Moskowitz leading the way last year.
Yeah, he was kind of their bell cow. And like you
100%.
mentioned, I think you said one game he had over like 25, 30 carries. So he was somebody they leaned on a lot. So how would that look in the offense? Would he kind of be more balanced, look at what the defense gives him, depend more on Luke Nickel? That's going to be a good question. And then back to what you said, their running game, I feel, is going to look different for Gainesville, right? Obviously, Naeem Cheeks did a great job last year as a senior, but now they're going to have Gavin Hall. How will he look? Will he be able to run a couple routes too? And then they got Mikael Stephen, who Coach mentioned and name dropped. Coach Nibble did about how good he is, and he's going to get some playing time as a freshman. So,
yeah, what an opportunity for Gavin Hall, though. It goes from being a quarterback that all region, all state, then it's, okay, is he going to play a receiver role? Because he's that athletic, and then he just bulks up, and now he's going to be Gainesville's lead back, filling in for Naeem Cheeks, who's obviously got tons of action last year. So I think that'll be really just interesting to see how he plays out this year, and he has an opportunity to make a huge impact and really make a name for himself this season.
100%, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Y'all keep it live. We're going to have all the action. Next week's going to be our official kickoff for the Sheriff's Cup, so y'all keep it tuned for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I love the initiative that they're creating and doing for these kids, and anti-gang and anti-bullying things, and just trying to have a positive impact the Sheriffs are. So we're going to have that. We're going to have 4 teams. They're going to be Tucker versus Cambridge, and then Grayson versus I'm forgetting the other team. I think Grayson versus McEachern. So it'll be a lot of fun, man. That'll be next week. We'll have that on TV Saturday. And then after that, it's Corky Kell, man. And then, it's all systems go at that point. It'll be a full season, and it'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of topics. So,
yep, and it's right after that. It's on a Wednesday.
Yeah, so that's 4 days straight of nonstop. So it'll be a lot of fun, man.
100%. Sheriff Cup, they'll be at Meadow Creek kicking off the broadcast. So definitely excited to see the kids kick it off.
100%. And then before we go to our college segment, our second segment of the show, is there anything else that you want to talk about in high school before we transition?
Yeah, well, I was going to do my underrated player right here.
Forgot all about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
And speaking of Corky Kell, I think there's going to be a lot of big-time players we're going to want to see, some big storylines between the programs, the matchups. But I think a guy this season that really has an opportunity to, and I'm just going to say it, lead Fellowship Christian to a state championship is CJ Givers. He was a freshman last year. He wasn't starting week 1. Only took 5 carries in the Corky Kell. He was playing behind, I forgot his name. I think it was Lawson or whoever their senior was, but he ends up taking over, and I think it was 1,600 yards. No, sorry, 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. And when you look at his speed, the physicality, I really like this Fellowship Christian offense because he has the home run ability. They've got all their playmakers returning to the receiver role, the quarterback role, and they have one of the best running backs in the state. We're going to watch some of his film right here, and I think it will be pretty apparent if he's doing this as a freshman. You see the vision, you see the breakaway speed. Let's look at a couple of these plays starting at the 120 mark.
Sorry, 120.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Y'all make sure y'all comment below. All the people tuning
and this
in.
is semifinal team last year, so.
All right, so now we got a little motion. Good job avoiding the tackle. Yeah, as I mentioned, when you told me about him, I love his burst.
Yep. Then you see a couple different ways he's able to just have that patience. This is a great run. Watch how fast he gets to the outside.
Let's see. I formation right here, y'all. Good blocks. 1-on-1 right here. Wow. Just turn on the burners. Carries defender for a touchdown.
And
that's
then
nice.
This one, you see a great kind of half spin move. Watch this. Yeah, just
That's
sidesteps
nice.
him.
Real good in overfill. So another one like I formation right here, y'all. Got the tight end moving over. Get through the hole. Wow. Look how fast he gets to the second level. I mean, that's impressive. He's not wasting no time. He's not hesitating in the hole. He's going 100% forward. I love that.
He's going to go empty right here, and this is just a nice route and catch. This is another thing that Fellowship will be able to hit you with.
Nice catch, too. A little sideline grab. And that was impressive.
A couple more plays. He had a nice wheel route catch as well on this clip.
Oh, that's just too easy money. Yeah, that's easy money right there.
16 touchdowns as a freshman. And then, here's another home run play right here.
Let's see. Boom, 1 missed tackle, 2. Woo, look at that spin. 3. Oh, my goodness. Carrying defenders. All right, let's see. Ooh, look how fast he just gets to that second level. Oh, my goodness. And he did this as a freshman?
Yep.
I can imagine.
30 carries against against ELCA, which is one of the better teams in the state. I think this is.
Nice job finding the hole.
Touchdown machine right there.
It's that, and real quick, remind us quick, how many touchdowns he had last year?
16.
That's impressive, man. Ooh.
Yeah, that move right there.
Yo, we got to go back. Look at this. Woo. That's nasty. That is nasty. Wow. Talk about making your defender look silly. Sheesh. That's a little play action. That's the wheel right here. Oh, man. His quarterback didn't help him.
Nope, he had to go. Yeah.
That would have been a tutty.
Turn around.
Oh, man. Go watch one more, y'all.
Yeah. Another good route right here. Sit down route.
Let's see. Okay, nice little dig. For the catch.
So for a freshman highlight,
I mean, that's impressive, though.
Yeah. And I feel like they didn't win last year. They ended up losing to Mount Pisgah, who, I mean, they had a great team as well. But
that was a back and forth game, though. That came out towards the end.
21-19. It was really close. But as I said, he only took 5 carries in that game. And then after that, he was their lead back. I think he's going to come out, and they aren't going to be able to just shut him down. I expect a multiple touchdown game, and I think he's going to break off a big run for sure. And you look at what he's been doing on his social media, some of his workouts and training. I think he's probably added a lot to his game. I think he's going to have a really big season. Watch out. Only going to be a sophomore this year.
100%. So, y'all, that's our underrated and overlooked player for this week. Great job by Craig, man. I mean, definitely that kid is impressive. Can't wait to see what he looks like this upcoming season. But, man, if you guys are watching the show right now, make sure y'all comment a player y'all want us to analyze, man. We love that. Comment below. Use the comment box down there. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We love doing that every single week, and every week we'll have a new player. But I want to get your thoughts before we transition, actually, to our college segment. A guy I want to put you on with, very impressive. And you know how Juju Lewis started last year as a freshman in the Carrollton area? I got another player that's going to start as a freshman. Central Carroll guy. Don't know if you guys have heard this guy right here.
I've heard.
Let me see if I can pull up the tweet for you guys. I think who tweeted it was Gradic Sports. Right here. Okay, let me share it with you guys. I think this is a team, and I shared it with Rusty Manziel to kind of show him. I think this is going to be impressive, y'all, right? She says, this is Gradic Sports. It said, Central head coach, Coach U. Brown, named freshman J.R. Harris, the starting QB in an interview with Times Georgian. J.R. Harris will take the helm has been polished, accurate, and fluid with the offense this summer. He says, grateful for this opportunity. This would not be possible without God, my coaches, teammates, and my trainer. Tagged everybody. Sure, Rusty has seen it, but I just told him I think this is somebody that should be at the Georgia League Classic, right? We know what it stands for. Obviously, it is to get players noticed. It is to get players that are, struggling with recruiting or can't get scholarships to help them get there. But, I mean, he just beat out a senior as a freshman coming in. I think that speaks a lot. And I think we need to have one of their games on TV. I think they play Cedartown this year. And I think that would be a game that we should go out and look at. Actually, let's share their schedule really quick with you guys.
They're in 4A. That'll be Cedartown.
I want y'all to see this real quick. And I think this is much watched TV. I mean, obviously, he's not as hyped up as Juju was, but, they're going to play Bowden to start, home game. That would be an interesting one. But I think we have our grill in the batch that week. But I got this one circled for me.
Yeah.
Cedartown, home game. Cedartown made it all the way to – did they make the semis? Did they make championship?
They made the championship.
Yeah, they lost to Benedictine, right? 14-13. Yeah, so I think that's a marquee matchup. And last year, just to show you guys, they had a really good season. I think they made it to either the second round. They went 8-4.
Go to their stats. I think.
Yeah, and they made it to the second round.
They were one to go up to. Yeah, let's look at their rushing yards per game last year. Yeah, 220 rushing yards per game. We had a really good and talented quarterback that I believe he's a dual threat too, isn't he?
Yeah. And this team
is gonna be really exciting.
This team had Bakari Swing last year. And look at the freshmen.
Their freshman last year.
Running back. 20 touchdowns, 1,644 yards. I mean, that's the team I would want to see. Like, I think they're going to be very impressive next year. Bringing in the freshman. Obviously, he's going to have his bumps and bruises. He's going to have his lumps. But we see what Juju just did. I'm not saying he's on his level, but Juju just took his team to the state championship game. I'd be curious to see what he can do in year one.
Yeah, so, I mean, just looking at right there, they pretty much returned 34 of those 36 touchdowns rushing. They're going to have a freshman phenom at quarterback.
Yep. The interesting part is going to be the receiving corps.
Yeah, we saw how good Bakari Swain was last year.
Exactly, and they graduated a lot of their seniors, right? No Bakari Swain, no McMichael, no Edge. They're going to have to depend on, Worley, Pearson, and guys like that. So
yeah, but I think having that good running game will help them out.
For sure.
Just into the season, maybe get that passing game going, but they're going to be able to run the ball early. It's been their bread and butter.
100%. So that's going to be interesting to see. I did want to bring it up to Craig. I think that's going to be a team to watch for. Hopefully, we can get that on TV and get it to see him, because I think a freshman starting out, that's not an easy thing to do, especially for varsity. So obviously, he's impressed his coaches on the onslaught.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing about him since last year. I mean, earning the starting job, though, and then getting it shouted out like that from your coach on Twitter, that's cool.
Yes, 100%. So we're going to move to our next segment. We're going to talk a little bit about college. I'll start with Tech, and then we'll move to Georgia. Really impressive what they're doing, right? They're able to land a 3-star offensive lineman who we just saw at our high school media day, Jamison Riggs. He officially committed to Georgia Tech. It was kind of surprising. He had some major offers. Louisville or Kentucky was interested. A couple other notable Power 5 programs, but he chose Tech, chose to stay home. Really impressive in person. Hiram's a program. They got a lot of talent, right? They got Chase Tyler. They got Matthews, who's going to USC. They got Riggs. So, they're going to be a team to watch for this upcoming season. I think that was another good get for them. And they also landed a 3-star tight end from Indiana. Very fluid in his movement. I like the way he runs routes. He's also not afraid to block as well. So I think Georgia Tech continues to land home and continue to get major prospects and kind of keep them in state and then move them as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, Georgia Tech, they've been on the move this year. Where are they ranked right now nationally?
That's a good question.
Let's see. Last time, let's see. They're sitting at 25. That top 25 is huge. 21 commits. Looks like in terms of the ACC, UNC's right where they're at. Miami,
Clemson,
and Florida State.
Yep. So they're not too far out.
Yeah.
Not too far
Better than Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas Tech.
Yep.
Kentucky, Wake Forest. So yeah, that's top 25. It's a big deal.
It is. I think their program on the rise, as I've been saying. So Brent Key and the recruiting program, they're doing a good job, man.
Absolutely.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
And they were offering, and they've been offering a bunch of kids will be juniors this upcoming season. So they're definitely hitting the ground in Georgia all over.
100%. And it's one of the most talented states, for talent in the country. So, and I think us having obviously our 7-on-7 there, it definitely helped them as well. I think that was big, and players were getting Power 5 offers on the spot.
Yeah, I feel like this upcoming season, the players at Tech, they probably heard it a million times from Coach Key, but you might see it across college football. Kids are playing for their own career. They're trying to make it to the NFL. I think this Tech team knows that this year is really important for the state of the program and the future direction. It was really bad early last season before they started to try to change course. This year is so huge. I think they're going to know they're playing for something bigger than just themselves. Like there's a real mission. You hear it from all the alumni encouraging them, and I think there's going to be a lot of support around them this year for sure.
100% agree. I think Craig brought up a great point. Just setting the foundation, setting the building blocks for future programs. And we heard that a lot too at our media day. Just programs, first year, second year, just trying to build off what they had last year. And even if, let's say they don't make the ACC championship game, even if they have a 500 season or they have a season where they're competitive, they pull off a major upset against a Clemson or a South Carolina or a Florida State or something, that's going to be huge for them building on to future seasons.
100%. Yeah, the big upset game. I mean, that's all they need to get that excitement back. Storm the damn field.
Yes, that's it, and it's over with. But we're going to throw it to Craig. I know he got some intel. Craig's intel on UGA, latest of what he's been seeing. As we mentioned on the onslaught, some players transferring out. Some players were decommitted and moved to other programs. But just what do you think? I think you guys just landed a major running back too.
Yeah, we got Christopher Jones, another linebacker. It's just the month of July for Georgia. They were so aggressive. 4 5-stars at this point. Not only getting Dylan earlier, but having to move in state. Huge power move. Just right in everyone's face. The offensive line, what they've been doing there. Speed guys like DeMello Jones, who I think we don't know the official yet, but he'll probably be an AJC Super 11 guy. Was just an outstanding athlete last year for Swainsboro. You're getting a guy that can play both sides of the ball, super fast, all-state track guy. Nye Carr. I mean, this recruiting class and what we're going to get to see from them this season is going to be so impressive. And let's talk a little bit about Justin Green and Mountain View. You got to talk to him. That guy, all the engineers helping out, when he showed up and took the stage, they were just shaking their head. They're like, that guy's in high school? Like, no. And I'm like, yes. Look around. Just wait. He is very physically mature. And I think he is reason enough to check out Mountain View this season. He's going to be a nightmare on the defensive line. So I just think all these 2024 guys, I'm just excited to get to see what they do this season. And they're all going to be coming into campus together. It's really impressive for sure.
No, 100%, man. It's going to be interesting to see on the football field. Can Georgia follow up their success past 2 seasons being competitive? We know now Carson Beck is going to be the starter. How will some of their weapons look this upcoming season? We know that they got a couple guys from Georgia that are, giving them some good time. Like I think Mikael Williams is going to start. He came from Georgia, Callaway, I believe. Malachi Stark started out as a freshman. So how are they looking at their second years? And, Georgia's been known for predominantly defensively. Obviously, their line is really good, but their linebacking core has been amazing as well. So how will they look in the next year? And, obviously they're going to have some tests, and it'll be interesting. I think next year is going to be even more interesting when Texas and Oklahoma comes over. I think it's going to make the SEC even better. And obviously you see the hype around Texas and Oklahoma, and you see their fan bases. But I think, man, adding them to the SEC, that's just going to add to the game day intrigue. Imagine UGA going to Texas, what I think they're going to do year one, and going to that atmosphere in Austin and playing against Texas. I mean, can you tell me a better environment? Are them coming to Georgia?
You ask anyone what are the best college towns, it's all Austin, Athens, because literally those towns wouldn't exist without the college. I mean, they'd exist, but that's what they are.
That's what they're known for. Yeah.
I think you brought up a great point. How aggressive is UGA going to be once the season starts with these underclassmen? It's going to be interesting. They might start throwing out some major offers to these sophomores and juniors we've been talking about, and then does that potentially impact some of the guys you have in the senior class saying, "Wait a minute, you're going to have my replacement potentially coming." So
Yeah.
I think they'll be aggressive, but that's another thing to watch. What school will be throwing the most at these Georgia athletes once the season kicks off in terms of underclassmen?
I agree. And Kirby's doing a good job for the most part, keeping his talent in state and going getting talent that's out of state and bringing it to the program and maturing it. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. And all these guys are staying in state and going to Georgia. Like you said, the Naquavius Carrs, the Mello Jones, the Sokovie Whites, all coming over. So, how will they look? And I mentioned to see how quickly, might not start year one, but how quickly can Bo Hughley, who's impressive at his 6'7" height, how quickly will he be able to get playing time? If it's not year one, is it year two? You know, how quickly does he develop? Because he was a staple in that Lexington Hughes offensive line last year. So how quickly can he come over and start? I think it's going to be interesting, too.
I mean, Bo Hughley, he definitely has NFL potential. He's motivated to get that starting job, show what he can do. He's physically done it year in and year out. Put Hughes on the map, what they were able to do the last 2 years just with him. So I definitely expect him to be out there making a big impact immediately.
100%. And then, okay, so our last segment before we wrap and go to our third, man. So, Craig, you got to tell us, man, what matchup are you most interested to see week one college football? I'll start as Craig gets his list ready. Louisville, Georgia Tech. That's going to be such an interesting game people aren't talking about. And I say that because how will Georgia Tech look under year one? How will they start under Brent Key? Home game, playing Louisville. The program has had a couple down years, but they've been recruiting better recently. How will they come out and look? And we mentioned earlier in the summer, North Carolina, South Carolina. That's going to be such a good game as well. And then the cool thing about college football is it's going to start Thursday, right, August 31st, and it's going to go Friday, and go Saturday. I think you're going to have some games Sunday, and you're going to have games Monday because, as you guys all know, college football kicks off on Labor Day weekend. But I'm going to throw it to Craig. I'm going to see what games that they're going to have on Labor Day Monday, because usually those games are pretty good, and what games they're going to have on Sunday, because usually every year they have something.
Colorado, TCU. Ooh. I think that will be interesting.
And why?
Just to see what Colorado looks like this year. I mean, it's a big matchup. TCU is obviously has a really bitter taste in their mouth, and I think that one might be an interesting matchup. I don't expect both teams to look completely in mid-season form. I think there might be a sloppy game. It's not the best matchup, but yeah, I mean, who's going to come out and win that one? And I wonder what the point spread is on that.
As Craig looks,
TCU's a 21-point favorite right now.
21? What? I don't know. That's kind of high. 21-point favorite?
Yeah. 20 and a half.
Yeah, y'all. I don't think I really agree with that. But we're gonna share our screen real quick with y'all.
Yeah, this is CBS 14. So two touchdown favorite. I just think
that's kind of bold.
I just want to see what Colorado is able to do. Could be quite an environment.
Yeah, I agree. So these are the games I was telling y'all about. So this one, I got this one circled right here. Boom. LSU, Florida State. We know Florida State ended up beating LSU last year. They had that field goal block after they tied the game at the end. It was such an electric atmosphere there. I think they had it at Mercedes-Benz Superdome. But they're going to play again. So I think that's for both teams. And I love the contract they got set up. ACC, SEC, such a good way to open up the season for both programs. Curious to see how they're going to look. And then Clemson, Duke, that's going to be the Monday night game. That's going to be another interesting one, September 4th, between those two programs. It's going to be at Duke. How will Duke look? Duke's been doing, I think, a good job, too, of landing some good prospects, for their program. So how will they come out the gates and look, week one against Clemson? And Clemson is one of the favorites to win it all, in their conference. We'll see if they'd be a national contender this year. But them and Florida State has been synonymous of winning the ACC. So
yeah, obviously those matchups are outstanding. And then we talked last week that South Carolina, North Carolina one will be very good as well.
100%. So those are our marquee matchups. I'm trying to see if there's any other really good ones. that we can tell y'all about. As I mentioned, this one on Friday, Louisville, Georgia Tech. That's what I'm going to watch. We'll be on ESPN. I think will be an incredible game. How will Georgia Tech respond? How will they come out year one under Brent Key, Louisville program as well? I think that's going to be a very, very fun one. And then, yeah, I think that's what we got for you guys as far as the marquee matchups. Let's see if there's any other ones. Yeah, I think week one, I think that's as good as you're going to probably get. So that's what we got as far as our marquee matchups. And we're going to go ahead to number three, our third segment. Talk some boxing, man. Craig took Earl Spence. Stephen A had a bold take and said that he should retire. I think that's kind of bold. I wouldn't say he should retire. The guy's dealt with a lot. But it's just one of those fights he just got a little bit outclassed, right? And that happens. And he can rematch. He can use his rematch clause. Yeah, outmaster class, however you want to put it. But I just believed in Terrence Crawford because I thought he's been fighting longer. He has the experience. He's been dominant in his last couple of fights, and he's one of the best in boxing.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. People were talking about a potential rematch in a different weight class. I have seen enough. I don't, I don't think I'm picking Spence again. The way those knockdowns he had impressed me so much because it was all in a different variety. It's like one is just like a clean direct hit. Another, it's a counter punch after you take a massive hook, and less than a second later, he's on the ground. And then at the end, as I said, he's just on skates. That's how you close out a match right there in dominant fashion. Couldn't have been more impressed, and he's the real deal.
He certainly is, man. Yeah. So he got a couple, potential prospects and fights that's coming up for him. I'm sure he'll schedule and we'll see. But it was a lot of fun watching it. Really good fight. I thought Spence tried his best. But Crawford was just better, man, and he shows why he's the class of boxing right now. So we'll see. That it definitely was one of the bigger fights this year, though.
Yeah, how do you beat someone where you can land a punch, they know it's coming, and then before you can even react to landing it, he's knocked you on the ground? I mean, that type of counter punch, that type of just skills, that's just ridiculous.
Yep,
I mean,
100%.
You take one of the hardest punches he lands the entire match, and then you end up getting knocked out. That's elite. That's next level. I don't know who's going to fight next, but he's definitely my pick. I have not seen just a skill set like that. He is an absolute tactician.
100%. So y'all keep it locked. We'll obviously have more boxing news as major fights come, UFC and everything like that. But that's our thoughts on it, man. Crawford just shows why he's one of the best in the sport. Continues to put up great performances, man, and he showed his full repertoire on display Saturday night, man. And shout out to him, man. But we're gonna keep it going and rolling. We're gonna move to our next topic and talk a little bit about football kickoff Thursday as well. So that's the official kickoff kind of for football. It's gonna be the Browns and the Jets. What's your quick thoughts on that matchup, Craig? And what are you thinking about as far as those two teams facing off? And actually, Jets are featured on Hard Knocks this year.
Yeah, well, I think it's always interesting seeing the AFC teams square off. Thought the Jets were impressive last year, and I picked them in that matchup. The Browns, a team you're going to have to face twice this year, but I don't think you're too worried about that.
No, I'm not going to slight the Browns. I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch out for. Their D-line is going to be good. They got what's his name? Zadavius is coming over from Minnesota. Darius Smith, I think, and they got Myles Garrett. So their D-line is going to be no joke. And they're going to be really good still at the cornerback role, right? They still got Denzel Ward. They got some good guys on the quarterbacks. But how would Deshaun Watson look in year two as a Cleveland Brown, right? We know how good he was in high school. We know how good he was in college. We saw how good he was in the NFL. But how will he look in year two, another year under that offense under Stefanski?
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to think, but it's like he's got to do the impossible. He's got to be a great quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. It's for some reason, whatever reason it is, it just never seems to happen. So is he good enough? Absolutely. Can he have a really good season where he's in that top 5 quarterback conversation? I mean, if he does that, they're going to be legit for sure. It's just it never seems to pan out at the quarterback position there. So tall task, but I definitely think it'll be an exciting storyline.
For sure. And then what do you think real quick about the Jets, right? Being featured on Hard Knocks, right? Aaron Rodgers coming over. He took a pay cut.
Yeah.
Not making that $100 million. I think he's making, took $35 million pay cut. What do you think about that and him trying to, to being the bigger man and allowing them to, make trades and get guys come in and kind of better the team. And then some people are calling it the dream team this year with all the talent they've acquired. Dalvin Cook's interested, hasn't signed anything official, but he's interested. You got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Ellen Lazard coming over, CJ Uzama still there. Brees Hall's recovering from the torn ACL. Just what do you think about that team and their prospects for this year?
I think definitely playoff bound. I don't necessarily think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do it all. I don't think he's going to have some incredible season. There were times last year, especially early on, I thought he looked really bad, and I was actually hopeful. I thought, he's been talking positive about this year, but he didn't really have the receivers. They just looked like a mess. So it looks like he's in a better situation now. Maybe we'll refresh his career. We'll see.
It'll be interesting. Jets going to be a team to watch. I think that's going to be one of the tougher divisions this year. It's not getting talked about enough, but Bills, Dolphins, Jets, we'll see what the Pats do, but I think that's going to be a really tough division. I think this upcoming season, I know the Bills won it all last year in their division, but I think it's going to be a tough competition. Miami looks good. It will depend and kind of harper on the health of Tua Tagovailoa, but they got skill positions, man. They look good at running back. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The secondary got better despite Jalen Ramsey being out to December. They still got some guys, Eli Apple, Xavier Howard, so it's going to be interesting to see how they look in another year under the helm and under Mike McDaniel. So we'll see, man. I think it's going to be a really interesting division. But let's go to the Chiefs now. Talk about a really impressive receiver for y'all.
Yep.
Justin Ross couldn't play last year, had major injury, but heard he's been impressing in camp, man, and he might even be wide receiver one. I know you guys still got Kadarius Toney, still got Travis Kelce, but what do you think of him and his growth and maturation and how we can look in kind of year one for him under that Chiefs system?
So huge. I mean, could it be like a Kyrie situation? It's like you miss your first year and then year two you blow up. I think that could happen. It's obviously disappointing to not see him out there. Really talented Clemson receiver, but back healthy, a year of rest, understanding the offense, then going out there and impressing in training camp. That's what you want to see. And actually, my sister Casey will be at training camp this next Wednesday and the week after that. So she's excited about that.
Nice. And I think, too, it'll speak to your GM and obviously the person that drafts for you guys. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but I think that'll be really impressive because it shows that you guys made a bold step last year, right? Letting Tyreek walk, letting him go, trading him to the Dolphins, and depending on the cast that you had, obviously Juju Smith left and went to New England. But if you guys can go and get this guy that you drafted the year before, and he makes a big impact for you guys, I mean, that's going to show like, yeah, y'all were right. Y'all made the good decision. Obviously, it already showed that y'all won the championship. But to have a guy that you'll have a rookie deal for 3-4 more years, and you don't have to pay him all that money, and he's going to be that kind of staple for you guys, I think that's going to be big going forward.
100%. He's obviously motivated to make a strong impression, come off of that injury well. I just think it's one of the most positive things going for the Chiefs right now. If he comes out and has a huge season, I mean, that's going to go a long way for sure. And I think the fans will be excited about it as well.
100%. And last topic we want to do before we conclude the show, we just wanted a quick update on the World Cup. Women's World Cup. I know for me, U.S. barely qualified. They did 0-0 draw. If they would have lost, they would have been out of it, but they advanced on to the knockout stage. Another impressive team, I think, has been Japan. I think they won recently 4-0. So it's been an interesting tournament so far. It's starting to kind of narrow itself down to knockout stages. Group stage is practically over now. But what do you just think of USA struggling? Team that was favored, as we talked about, going in, but they've kind of struggled a little bit in group stage, and they're going to have kind of that lower seed going into the tournament.
Yeah, normally this is when they generate all that buzz, and let's just be honest, it's been a lackluster group stage for them. The Netherlands game, it's a good thing they survived, but no one has really stepped up and had these performances, been the leader on the field. And then is that something where they need someone to step up, or is it a strategic thing? I mean, what's causing them to not come out on the foot and score goals? I'm not sure. I think they're just happy to advance and get in the later stages, but they're definitely going to have to turn it on right now.
I agree with you. If they don't turn it on, they're going to get knocked out early, and then that's going to be the end of their quest. And they're going to look very different in 4 years from now, right? They're not going to have Megan Rapinoe anymore. A lot of their core players, Alexis Morgan and several others, are not going to be with the program. So they're going to have to. This is kind of their last ride, almost, if you think in a sense. So like you said, they're going to have to turn it up. If not, they're going to be going home early.
Yeah, they need to get what's her girl from River Ridge's name?
Sophia Pearl.
Yeah, they need her in 4 years. She's scoring 6 goals a game.
Yeah, no, she's
yeah. I mean, offensively, they just got to be more aggressive, take more shots. It's got to be a strategic thing. I mean, that's just uncharacteristic with the U.S. women's team. They're never in these 0-0 draw situations. They're always offensive,
dominated.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got to draw up a better strategy.
Yep.
But shout out to the goalie.
Right, she's doing her job. But last thing, Craig, I'll throw it to you. Is any other topics you want to hit before we conclude the show for today?
No, just excited about what we got the rest of the day with Hunter Teal. That'll be really fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do this upcoming season, and we'll be there soon.
Yep. So y'all keep it locked, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in for a special today. Obviously, we do our show every Tuesday, but there's several things that we want to hit on, and obviously we're doing it in a different location today. But hope you guys still enjoy the show. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and y'all subscribe to the YouTube page. We'll have a bunch of exclusive content coming to the channel. So y'all stay tuned for that, and a bunch of offers and commitments and much more for the season goes. So y'all stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.